Grr, arg.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another edition of the Mixtape Podcast, the podcast dedicated to discussing film from a screenplay writer's perspective. I'm your master of ceremonies for this evening. My name is Marcelo Nostroza, joined as always by my fellow co-host, Dean Stark. And on today's show, we will be discussing the 1982 film, The Thing, directed by the one and only John Carpenter. So, as I do every week, I will kick it over to my good friend Dean to take us through this film section by section.
You had never seen this film before, correct?
Correct.
Now, before we get into it, did you like it? Or did you think it was a bit silly?
Oh, it was not silly at all. I loved this film for the most part. I did have some issues with it, but for the most part, I thought it was a blast.
Do you think, I don't think it's silly either, just for the fans out there. I love this movie. Did you think it was as good as you thought, as people were saying that it was going to be?
No, and there's a reason for that, which I'll get into.
All right. We'll talk about that a bit later when we get to it. All right. So, like Marcella said, The Thing, 1982, directed by We Know Who, written by Bill Lancaster, based on the story Who Goes There by John W. Campbell Jr. Okay. So, the premise of this is a research team in Antarctica is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. The opening scene, the opening scene is like exactly the same, not exactly, but it's like the same scene from the opening of Predator. So we're in outer space. We see a UFO, a typical looking UFO flying towards Earth and flying into its atmosphere and kind of burning up. And then we see Antarctica, winter 1982. And there's a guy in a helicopter. It's snowing. Obviously, we're in Antarctica. There's a guy in a helicopter and he's trying to shoot a runaway husky in the snow. And the husky runs to a facility called the United States National Science Institute, Station 4. The helicopter lands at the facility, and the gun guy that's shooting at the dog, he jumps out and he's still trying to kill this fucking dog. This dog is like running for its life. And all the guys working at the facility hear this ruckus and they come out. And the helicopter guy is screaming at them, but he's screaming at them in Norwegian, and they cannot understand what he's saying. And then and this is what I find funny, he gets like a bomb out of his helicopter, and instead of throwing it forward, it's kind of slips and he throws it backwards and he blows the helicopter up. And I think they could have done that better, because it looks like the actor throws it back on purpose. Like, if you're throwing something forward, it's really difficult for it to slip out of your hand and like go backwards. I don't know, that's just me, but I thought that was a bit like writer's convenience. We have to blow up the helicopter for, X, Y, and Z reasons. And they did it like that, but like they could have done it better. Anyway, accidentally, in air quotes, blows up the helicopter. And then one of the guys shoots the Norwegian guy dead because they can't understand him. He's got this massive fucking gun. He's pointing it at them. He's pointing it at the dog, and they don't know what's going on. So they shoot him. So that is the opening scene. What did you think about? Because you haven't seen this movie before. What did you think about the opening scene? What did it set up everything for you that it needed to?
I really, really liked the fluid camera movement by John Carpenter in this opening scene. Like you said, it had Predator vibes with the spaceship crashing. I really felt that John Carpenter didn't waste any time, although it was a little bit strange seeing this guy in a helicopter wanting to kill this dog several times. So I really appreciated that John Carpenter gave us a bunch of visuals, but he didn't really explain any of it. He just let it happen and sit there. And I really appreciate that, despite of the questions that I had after this first opening scene.
Yeah, I thought it set it up quite well as well. So the official scene one, the first scene is one of the one of the workers, one of the guys at the facility is trying to reach help on the radio, but he can't get through to anybody. And he says to one of the other guys, "I haven't been able to get through it to anybody on the radio for weeks." And so what that shows is it's setting up the radio doesn't work, and when shit goes down, they can't call for help because that shit doesn't work. So I liked that. And so they want to go to the guy's base because the Norwegian base is not far away. So they want to go and see like what the fuck's going on, maybe try to communicate with them. And then we get introduced to McCready or Mac, and he is the pilot. So that was the official first scene.
I really liked that John Carpenter and the screenplay writer established early on that in the base that the guys are in, there are no communications. They haven't been able to reach anyone in a certain amount of days. But it was really, really disconcerting to me. And I don't know if this is just a thing with me. For a large part of this movie, I had no idea who was who or what these people's names were. I'm like, what?
Yeah, me neither.
Like how? Like what are their names? And that's my. I knew we were. I knew I said we're gonna get to it later, but I feel that John Carpenter and the writer of this film sold this movie on just the situation alone, and that's it. I really would have appreciated some backstory to the characters in this research station. So when stuff starts to happen to them, I start to care. I feel that John Carpenter and the writer of this movie wanted us to care about the situation more than they did the characters that they put in the situation. And I don't know if I really like that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. And here's the thing. If I'm being honest, I don't like that.
There were too many characters. I didn't know the names of any of the characters but Kurt Russell. They weren't really. There was too many. They weren't said by name. I think one of them was I called him the doctor. Like I didn't write down anybody's name but McCready, because unless you know this movie back to front and you really study who they're calling who, like I didn't know what the cook's name was. I didn't know who the two doctors' names were. I didn't know who the scientist's name was. Like there's like two other guys. The dog guy, I think his name was Clark, I think. Like, yeah, they had so many at the base because a lot of them, they like cannon fodder. So that's why they didn't give you backstory. It's like, we didn't even have backstory on McCready. Like we had no backstory on him. We had no backstory on anybody, come to think of it. So that's a really good point that you bring up. Now, does it take away from the movie? No, because it is what it is. But yeah, you're right. Like it's hard to connect with characters that you don't have backstory on, but I guess they just didn't do it in this one. But the next scene was we have a shot of the dog, the husky that the guy was shooting. And he's walking down the hallway and he walks into a room. He enters the room of one of the guys. We don't see who the guy is. We don't know who he is. We just see the guy's shadow on the bed, and he looks over at the dog, and the dog walks over to him. We never really know who it is, to be honest. I'm going to bring up a lot of things in this movie that should have been explained but wasn't. But we don't know who it is. But I think we don't know who it is on purpose. So it's like it's a guessing game of like, who is it? Who's infected? So that was that scene.
Also, I really appreciate that John Carpenter from the start of this movie focused on the dog again and again and again and again. And he really did it really, really casually. Like he would have the guys sitting around a table in the rec room playing cards, and you would see the dog just looking out the window, or the dog walking down a hallway going into another room. And the fact that we didn't see what the dog would do when he went into a specific room, I felt that really helped build the tension and really build the mystery of what the hell is happening here and what the fuck is up with this dog. So yeah. I really, really did appreciate that. And there's a scene coming up here very, very shortly that I just stood up and applauded because it was the most gnarliest thing that I've seen. And we've
Yeah.
talked. Listen, we've talked about fucking Cronenberg on this show,
Oh
but
yeah.
the gnarly shit in this movie, it
Worse? It's
it
worse than Existence?
it
Mm.
no it rivals Existence. I still look
Rivals, right,
look.
okay, yeah, right.
I still think
Yeah.
Existence is a disgusting kind of wonderful, but
Yeah.
the practical creature effects in this movie are fucking up there for sure.
Oh, they're amazing. Practical, I mean, you know me. Practical effects all the fucking way. Because they just look so real and so fucking cool, especially coming up. Well, I won't mention that yet, but it's coming up. So the next scene is the boys, McCready and whoever he's with. I don't know the names of anybody. They arrive at the Norwegians' base because they want to know what the hell is going on. And it's not destroyed, but they walk in and it's all burnt out on the inside, and there's an axe in the door, and there's nobody around, and it's like there's blood, and it's like what the fuck happened? Everything's smashed, everything's everywhere. And McCready enters a room and sees a huge kind of um it looks like a ice bath, like a massive ice bathtub. And basically they were digging into the ice, and one of the guys says maybe they found a fossil. I don't I don't know. I don't know how he could get maybe they found a fossil just from them digging in the ice. I mean, maybe they were looking up mineral samples. Like they could have, like that's why people generally go there to test the ice. I mean, I don't know why but anyway, this is the thing. So McCready says, okay, but if they found a fossil, like where is it? Where's the fossil? So in there, in the burnt out place, they find a guy sitting in a chair. He's iced over. He's slit his wrists and he's slit his own throat. And that's all practical, folks. That's not CG. And I'm like, ew, that's so gross. But again, they're like, what the fuck? Like, he's killed himself, like, in the most probably painful way possible. So you have no idea. They go outside and they see the burnt remains of something. And John Carpenter does a really good job of kind of showing what it is, but he does it at an angle where it's like you don't know what it is, and it's like, is it human? Is it animal? Like you don't know. And yeah, it's a beautiful shot that he does. I mean, I mean, literally, you see it in the next scene anyway. But it's intriguing. It's intriguing, definitely. So that really, I think that scene really pushes the story forward, because they decide, in their infinite wisdom, to bring whatever the fuck this is back to their base.
Why would people do that?
I
What the fuck?
I wouldn't
What?
be going fucking 10 feet near it. I'd be like, you know what? Leave it. This is not our problem. Why would they like, no,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. What I was thinking multiple times throughout this movie, before shit really gets bad, they had the opportunity to get on the choppers and to get the fuck out of there. But
Mm,
every opportunity, I feel that the story gave them from a narrative perspective, they did the exact opposite for wanting to
yeah.
figure out what is happening here. Now, I understand that as a writer and as a director, you have to find ways to keep your characters in this confined situation if you make a movie about a bunch of people in a confined situation, which
Mm.
is what this movie is. But still, the common sense in my brain was like, guys, if you just would have left the second you saw that frozen guy sitting there in the Norwegian station with his throat slit, frozen half to death, and the frozen blood coming down from his wrist was so fucking awesome and gnarly, but it was
So
so
cool.
disturbing.
So disturbing, but so
It
cool.
was
I
so
think
disturbing.
you
Also,
mean you
yeah,
wanted them to leave the Norwegian base, or that you wanted them to leave Antarctica?
Antarctica. I, I,
Oh, okay.
I really, look. I understand that this movie was made in in 82. But
Mm.
it would have been really cool to see them try and leave, and them and in the process of them leaving, if one of them who had been infected but didn't know it had a freak out while they were trying to get away, and they crash landed back. I think that would have worked for me from a
Yeah.
narrative perspective. Also,
Mm.
I do agree with you that the doctor sort of jumping to the conclusion that the Norwegians were possibly digging in the ice for soil samples. I don't know where he got that from, because they didn't actually look at the Norwegians videotapes until a couple scenes later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe I feel that John Carpenter could have put that scene first of them
Mm.
watching the videotapes of the Norwegians digging in the Arctic, and then do the scene with Mac and the doctor going in, and then have the doctor come to the conclusion after he has seen the tapes. Because
Yeah.
as an audience member, you would understand, okay, that's where he got this idea, instead of just
Mm.
pulling it from out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I think they didn't leave because the Norwegian base is over an hour from their base. And they found one person who'd slit their wrists and slit their throat. So they don't know why. They have no idea what's going on. It's all they know that something went down, but their radio doesn't work. And there was a storm coming. So I don't know if there's many bases around there. I have no idea. So I don't know if they had fuel. That was never mentioned. But, they found the deformed thing and they took it back. But by the time they realized what was going on, because imagine if this is because movies are real life. I always feel like people do in movies generally, not all the time in horror movies, because fucking you don't run upstairs, you run out the front door. But generally, I feel like it's real life. So in real life, if they had found the Norwegian base and it was like that, and they go, "Oh, what is this deformed animal?" What they didn't even know what it was. They brought it back. I wouldn't necessarily go, "Oh, they have to get out," because by the time they realized what's going on, the helicopter had already been sabotaged and they can't call for help. And like, do you know what I mean? Like they're not going to jump to conclusions. They're all men that are like, what the, you know what I mean? Like it took them a while to realize what was fucking going on.
And I really feel that they're all alpha men in their own way.
Yes. Yeah.
They're all really,
Yes.
really opinionated, and they each think that they know what's happening, and they want to
Yes.
be in some way validated by the rest, which really brings another interesting wrinkle into this movie that I didn't consider until what you just said.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So they bring the deformed body back to the base. And now you get a look at it, and it's just the special effects are so cool. It's so well done. It looks like, okay, there's like a bottom half, which is like all mangled, but the top half, it looks like imagine a face, and you have like a hand on one ear and a hand on the other ear, and you just pull your face apart. It looks like the face is being pulled apart. It looks really cool. Like it's gross, but it looks really, really cool. And then the doctor does an autopsy on the deformed body and realizes this body has normal human organs. There's nothing animal about it. And this is when they go, what the fuck were they doing on the Norwegian base? So that was really cool.
I just really, really like the practical effects in this movie. It is goddamn amazing. It looks so fucking real and so fucking disturbing that, like I just said previously, I think that the practical effects in this movie rival the practical effects in the the Cronenberg film that we talked about. I'm not saying that Cronenberg's effects are are better or worse, but in my mind, the practical effects in that movie and in this movie are just right there.
These practical effects remind me of Total Recall. You remember when they're on Mars and their faces, they're like, ah, And there's like their tongues are coming out and their like eyes are popping out. I don't know if it's by the same special effects artist, but it
I,
feels like it's the same.
yeah, look, but the thing with Total Recall, in Total Recall, you had like a scene or two, but in this movie, it is
A
consistent,
lot.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that really, really shows that the special effects team was 100% committed to
Mm,
making the practical effects of the alien or whatever this thing is really
mm.
work. Because if that didn't work, the main threat of this movie wouldn't be there, and
Yep.
this whole movie would have fallen on its face.
Yeah. No, I agree. So now the boys they're relaxing in the rec room when the husky walks in. The husky's not doing anything. He's just weaving in and out of people. And one of the guys goes, "Can you just get this dog out of here? Put it where it fucking belongs." Not that it's annoying anybody, but whatever. And so one of the boys, Clark, he takes the dog to the kennel where the other dogs are. Now, this husky, does not want to enter the kennel with the other dogs, and you kind of don't know why. But Clark goes, fucking just go, get in there. So the dog walks in. And when it does, it just sits down staring at the wall. And Clark's looking at this dog like, what the fuck is wrong with the other dogs are just kind of lying down. And then the dogs start to bark at it. And then this husky starts to turn inside out, literally, and turning into a fucking thing or a creature or whatever the fuck it is. And the other dogs are freaking the fuck out. I mean, one of the dogs is at the gate trying to bite off the cage to try and escape. Like they're all fucking freaking out. They're all scared. And Clark comes back to check on the dogs because he's like, what the fuck? Why are they all barking? He opens the cage. The dogs scramble out. He sees the fucking thing inside out. He fucking kicks the door closed and is kind of like flabbergasted, like, what the fuck is that? And that was a cool scene.
Yeah, that scene to me was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, kill all the fucking dogs in the kennel. Oh my god, he's gonna. Oh my god,
Oh, for
I,
fuck's sake.
I the the practical effects in that scene are incredible. And seriously, guys, I'm being serious now. Watching the poor dogs trying to claw their way out of the kennel, as a guy who doesn't like dogs, that gave me agita. I'm like, please don't kill the dogs. Please don't kill the dogs. But come on, it's
Yeah.
just fucking awesome when
Yeah.
the thing turns inside out. And the like Spider-Man spikes. It's just fucking
Yeah.
amazing. It is so good. And also
Yeah.
when Clark comes to check out the kennel and he opens it
Mm.
up, the thing also has these tentacle things that make this cool sound effect, which is
Yeah.
fucking creepy, disturbing, and it's all gooey and shit. It's just all
Mm.
kinds of it's all kinds of disgustingly wonderful.
Yeah. The little I don't know, ropey straw-like things are like whip, 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 whip. And it's just those are the things that freaked me out the most. Forget about turning inside out. The little whippy things that look like little bendy straws that come out of everyone that turns into the thing freaked me the fuck out because there's so many of them and they're going in different directions and I was scared.
They look like they look like veins or tentacles or
Yeah, like tentacles. Yeah, that's what it looked
tentacles.
like. It freaked me the shit out. So Mac and the boys get to the cage, the kennel, and they see the thing turning inside out, but it's like much bigger. And they're all like, what the fuck? One of them says, get me the fucking, Mac says, get me the flamethrower. And this is, the flamethrower is literally the coolest weapon you could use in any fucking movie. Fuck guns, fuck knives, it's the flamethrower. And they don't utilize that enough in movies. They fucking don't. And it's like the best weapon. So anyway, Mac, before he gets the flamethrower, he shoots it multiple times. It fucking does nothing. Does nothing. So now you know shooting it does fucking bupkis. And then it mutates even more and it gets so much bigger. It's like now it's encompassing this massive, massive kennel. And Mac gets the flamethrower on it and it works and it just shrivels up and fucking dies. So what we've learnt in that scene is that bullets do shit all. And a flamethrower, it doesn't like heat, it doesn't like fire. So we've learnt that. What did you think?
From a screenplay writer's perspective, it was genius that the screenplay writer was able to give this entity a weakness like fire, and pretty much showing us early on that shooting it does nothing, because Mac tried to shoot it, a bunch of people tried to shoot it, but that didn't do anything. So I was really pleased that when the guy who had the flamethrower came to the kennel door, he started firing at it. That worked to an extent, but I thought for like a split second that the thing was going to go through the fire and attack the guy that had the flamethrower, because John Carpenter did something really ingenious. At a point when the guy who's using the flamethrower, John Carpenter does a push into the guy's face. So I thought that that was John Carpenter telling the audience that nothing is going to stop this thing. And this thing, whatever the fuck it is going to grab this motherfucker and inhale him, basically. Which didn't end up happening, but it kind of happens much later on.
It does happen later on, which is really fucking cool. It just looks so cool. So now they're doing an autopsy on whatever the fuck this thing is. And the doctor peels back the skin to reveal it's like a mangled bone structure. And so he says, this thing, this organism, whatever it is, imitates other life forms. And we got to it before it could fully finish transforming into the dog, which is why it did the inside out thing, because it sheds it deforms it, and then it creates a new body that is the organism. So that was cool, because that was more information that the audience, us, needed to know.
Yeah, I thought that was ingenious that this organism incorporates its victims and it tries to make an exact copy of it, but because this thing doesn't know the proper cell structure and the fact that it tries to consume it first, I think that this organism should have studied human anatomy before coming to the planet and doing whatever it's going to do, because if it would have studied human anatomy first, it would have known that just consuming humans and trying to incorporate their cells into the creature's limbic system or whatever the fuck it is, isn't going to work properly. But that's me being all nerdy and just asking too much of John Carpenter and the screenplay writer of this film. But like Dean, I really enjoyed that explanation that they gave all the same.
Yeah, I think it would be infinitely more difficult to transform into a human rather than a dog. And I think that's why it was having too much trouble and why it takes so long to transform into a human, because it probably didn't study human anatomy and it has to kind of work it out on the way. But they didn't show that. Basically, the one issue I have with this movie is we know nothing about this organism ever at any point. We don't know where it came from. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know anything. So why is it trying to take over? I mean, also, it crash landed on Earth, so it wasn't coming here on purpose. So I don't know. We know nothing about it.
Also, it's indicated that it's been here on Earth for like 1,000 years.
100,000, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like,
where did it come from?
Yeah.
Was there only one organism in the UFO?
Right.
There's a lot of questions. I mean, look, it's kind of like the first movie of Predator. You didn't know where it came from. You didn't know why it was there. You knew nothing about it, but that didn't take away from the movie. And for me, it doesn't take away from this movie. It's just that I would like to know a little bit about the antagonist of the movie. Like, why are they trying to take over humans? Do they want to take over Earth? Like, is that what it is? Is this what they do on every planet? They you know what I mean? Like, just little things that I wish, I wish they would have gone into the ship, because when they find the ship, the hatch is open. I would have gone in. I would have had a look. That would have given a little bit of backstory to the alien race, whoever it is. But they didn't. They're like, oh, here's an alien ship. Now let's go back to our base. I'm like, what the fuck? Fucking go have a look, man. So yeah, a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
pissed.
I mean, look. My main issue that I have with this film is no character development from the characters are that we're dealing with in this awful situation. But I think that it
Mm,
really, really tracks. I think that you bring up some great points. That John Carpenter and the writer of this film didn't spend any time actually giving us a feasible explanation for the reason why this alien is here and what they want to ultimately do with
mm,
humanity. It feels to me that everything that this alien does is reactionary and by instinct. And I
yes,
really
yes.
think that that could have been helped by knowing a little bit more about the entity or the alien organism.
Mm. Actually, my friend said to me yesterday, the 2011 The Thing, um, that's actually a prequel to this movie. And I remember watching it when it first came out, and I'm like, oh, what a shit reboot. But I didn't realize it was a prequel. So I haven't seen it since it first came out. So maybe if I go back and watch that, it will give a little bit more information on the entity or how it came to be, or I don't know.
That's interesting because I didn't see that either, but after watching this movie, that is a thought that ran through my head. Like maybe if I
Mm,
watch the reboot of the thing, because I heard from a friend of mine who loves this movie that prequel does give some context to the
mm,
thing and where it came
mm.
from.
Yeah, yeah. So now we're with the doctor, and the doctor asks Clark, which is the dog wrangler guy, how long were you alone with the dog? And he says, I don't know, about an hour and a half. Why? And the doctor says, oh, it's nothing. But we know what he's getting at because he's formulating a theory that this thing infects people. He doesn't know how, which is another issue I have because we never actually find out in the movie how it infects people or how long the incubation period is. Those are two red flags that were not mentioned because they would have had to think harder in making everything make sense, because if you don't know the incubation period and if you don't know how it's transferred, then they can pretty much do whatever they want with the movie. So those are the other two issues that I had. But what do you think about that scene and that my issues?
Yeah, I really think that first of all, first of all, and most importantly, I think that this picks up the paranoia of the entire piece because as soon as the doctor starts asking questions to whoever he's speaking to, that makes you really think like who's infected, how did they get infected, and how much time has passed. To move to Dean's point of view, I really think if Mac and the doctor guy would have gone into the ship, maybe in the ship they could have figured out some sort of way to figure out or to verbally tell the audience, okay, once this organism is in you, this is how long it needs to really solidify, and this is how long the incubation period takes. So when the doctor starts acting funny, you have an idea of how long he has got or how long the person that he's speaking to has. But
Yeah.
there is a charm in not knowing. But I personally
Mm.
think that that's lazy, and I personally
Yeah.
think that that is the writer and John Carpenter just wanting to keep going with the
Yeah.
situation, and not worry about the minutia that we're worrying about right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, for me it doesn't take away from how good the movie is, but just adding a little bit in would have made it just a little bit better for me. So now they're all sitting down and they're all watching a video of the Norwegians digging in the ice. And they're setting charges to get deeper into this huge area. And Mac decides to go to the area that they're trying to blow up to investigate. So he does. That's it. That pushes the story forward a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I really, really wish that this scene would have been put a little bit earlier because if this scene would have been put a little earlier than what the doctor postulated when they first went to the Norwegian base, would have worked better for me. But I do agree that this scene pushes the story forward much more. And this, I mean, the one thing that I really appreciate about this movie, I mean, it sounds like I'm bagging on it a lot, which I am, but that's what we're here for. I really, really
Yeah.
think the pace of this movie is really, really good. I just wish that
Mm.
John Carpenter and the writer would have stopped once in a while for a cheeseburger, some,
Smell the
some,
roses.
yeah, I really wish that
Drive
John
through
Carpenter,
McDonald's.
I, I really wish that John Carpenter and the screenplay writer would have stopped for a cheeseburger or soda, some character development, and a sprinkle of
Mm.
backstory here and there for the alien or the entity or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. So Mac and the boys, they get to the area and they discover a UFO that was from the start of the movie, and it is half buried in the snow. And this is what they were blowing up to excavate. Now, I find it interesting because Mac and I think it's one of the other doctors. They get down to it. Now the hatch is open. None of them decide they're going to go in it. I would go in it because fuck, it's a UFO. Let's go in. But he says, Matt goes, "How long do you think this has been here?" And he goes, I don't know. Judging by the ice, at least 100,000 years old. Okay,
How would you
how
know
would he
that?
know that
How would you
without
know
doing
that?
ice samples? How would he fucking know that
No, but actually, but
just by looking at the ice?
hold up. Who said that? Who said that? Max said that, right?
No, 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 no. Mac asked. I don't know. I think he was asking one of the doctors or one of the scientists.
Okay, okay, that's plausible because at first when I thought when I watched this movie, I thought Max said that. I'm like, how the fuck would you know that? You're a fucking helicopter pilot.
No, no, no. It was that he was asking the question. But even for a scientist, um, you would maybe they can do it just by looking at the ice, but you would have to do samples. You would. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. Maybe maybe they can just look at ice and be like, it's 100,000 years old. I don't know. I have no idea. But they leave the UFO, and maybe 20, 30 meters away, there's another hole, and it's in the shape of a square, and we don't really know what it is yet. And if Mac didn't bring it up later, you would have thought that it was just a hole in the sand, in the ice. It should have been marked better what it was, because when that scene happened, I was like, why are they looking in a little hole of ice 20 meters away from the ship? I didn't. I mean, Max says later something crawled out and died in the ice. How could he know that? How could he know that? He couldn't know that.
I know, but let me ask you something. Do you think that we are cursed as storytellers wanting? No, but no, but I'm being serious now. Do you think that we are cursed as storytellers for wanting things to match up the way that you and I want them to match up? Because I personally think that makes storytelling a much more fulfilling experience for both the guy who wrote the goddamn thing and the
Mm.
audience.
Yeah, look, I don't believe in treating the audience dumb, like dummies, but I think that the audience needs some sort of a visual cue to make their own mind up about, oh, okay, because the hatch of the UFO, it was open, but it wasn't clear that it was open. It wasn't. And it was like, they should have been, I know they couldn't have been tracks, but they should have shown into the hole, which they didn't. It was just like a wide shot. John Carpenter should have shown into the hole. And if he showed into the hole, there should have been maybe an outline of the alien that they excavated. So the audience would have gone, oh my God, it's an alien. It must have come from the ship. That would have been enough of a visual cue for you to know what's going on. But he didn't. He did a wide shot. And so in the next scene, Mac is back at the base and he's saying, when the UFO crashed, something crawled out, but it froze in the ice until the Norwegians found it and brought it back to their base, thawed it, and woke it up. How would he know that? How would he possibly know that? Fuck.
Also, it really gave me the feeling that something was cut from this movie, and I'm like, what?
Could have
Like,
been.
are we missing a scene here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like Dean just said, the next scene is Mac giving us a possible explanation of what this saucer went through and what have you, but we just cut into the scene and we're just put
Mm,
right into it. It's like John Carpenter and the writer are expecting us to believe Mac when the writer and John Carpenter have given us nothing to
mm,
to back up what Mac is saying at all. They have given us no base. They expect
no.
us to admire the building, but they
Yeah.
forgot to lay down the groundwork.
Yeah. Because he's just basically telling the audience this is what happened. And it's like, but how do you know that's like you said, there's no how did you come up with that? At all. There was no evidence of that. Like there's nothing. There's no the alien creature is not there. There's nothing there. It's just a hole in the ice. How would you come up with that conclusion? It crawled away from the ship and it died in the ice, and then they thawed it out and woke it up. Okay, cool. Where'd you get that from? Doesn't make sense. But yeah, I think something might have been cut. But anyway, after that, do you have anything more to add to that lovely scene?
No, go ahead.
All right. So we're with the doctor, and he's in his I don't know, lab where the doctors, what is it called? Medical room.
Laboratory.
And but he's a doctor. He's not a scientist, so maybe he's in his. Who cares? He's in a room with a computer. Yeah, maybe. And he's doing a computer simulation of the entity, and we see on the very 1982 fucking computer the entity's cell, and we see a dog's cell, and the entity going over to the dog's cell, and then morphing into the dog's cell, and then going over to another cell, like a human cell, and then morphing into that. And it's like, oh, okay, so that's what it does. So you wouldn't know the difference between it and the real dog or it and the real person. There's no difference. It completely mimics the host. And it just keeps infecting nearby cells. And on the computer, it says probability that one or more team members may be infected by intruder organism 75%. And the doctor is like fucking sweating. And then the computer says, if intruder organism reaches civilized areas, entire world population infected in 27,000 hours from first contact. 27,000 hours is 3 years. And so now the doctor starts freaking the fuck out. And that was that scene.
I really, first of all, I was really confused for a moment what that scene was about. But the one thing that I really like is that after that scene basically shows you what the thing does, I really, really, really appreciated the fact that John Carpenter and the writer finally gave us some context about how this alien works and what will happen once someone is infected with this alien, and the way that this alien sort of is going to spread its wings, and how this alien could possibly infect the population, and how much time it could possibly take this alien entity to infect the entire planet. I really, really appreciated that, because that is something that I felt was tremendously lacking from this movie.
Yeah, no, it was a great push forward of information for the scene. So the first mutated body they found gets put into like a storage room. And one of the boys asks, why don't they just destroy it? Like, why are they keeping it? And the other one goes, are you kidding? Someone could win the Nobel Prize someday. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is why they don't run for help. You wanted to know why? This is why. They don't get it. Yeah, they don't get the situation that they're in. That's why they don't run. And then as they turn away from the covered, demented, mutated body, it starts to move. And they don't see it, but we do. And I love it when we know something that the characters don't. And I was like, shit's about to go down.
Yeah, look. The one thing that I really, really appreciated about this movie, two things. I really think that John Carpenter is a master at camera movement. His camera movement is very, very subtle, and it's almost like he wants you to be a passenger on this journey. He's not flashy with his camera movement, but the thing that I liked the most is that for the most part, he doesn't really show you what happens to individuals that the thing attacks for the first time. He saves that to the very, very end, almost the very, very end, almost the very end of the film. And I really like that he cuts away from that because that allows the audience to make up shit about what could possibly happen when the thing attacks you for the first time. And that is 100 times more terrifying than something that the writer or John Carpenter could ever show us or write in a script 100% of the time.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the boys pulls Mac aside and goes, "Look, I need to talk to you about something. It's really important." And he says, "Look, I can't find the doctor. I don't know where he is, but I did find his notes, and they're quite disturbing." And so he reads out his notes and he tells him about the cells and how it infects people, and how it mutates into the person. But also, it says in his notes, even though the body is burned, the cells are still alive. And then Mac goes, "Oh shit." Because they think once they burn the body is dead, but it's not. And this is kind of when everything starts getting a little bit tense because one of the boys goes to get the other one who was left in the room with the creature that was moving and he didn't see it. And it's such a cool effect. And finds like this thing taking over him. Like it's literally like this guy is sitting on a chair. He's got this thing's like wrapping itself around him. He's all pink. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a really, really cool, sickening effect.
It is an amazing effect that almost made me queasy. And the fact that we learn that even after burning this thing, it has this zombie kind of quality that it'll just keep coming and coming and coming. It's like really, really terrifying, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it is. It's just like the way that the creature, it's just creepy. So, um, where is it? They go back to the room. Okay, so the guy who finds the other guy that the entity is taking over, he runs to Mac and tells him, and they go back to the room, but the body's gone, and they're like, "But he was just here. Like, how can he go? Like, he was clearly dead." And they hear this breaking of glass, and so they all the boys they run outside and they find this guy stumbling in the snow, and he turns and he's on his knees and they're all surrounding him and he turns around and it's so creepy. His hands haven't transformed human yet and they look like alien massive hand, like they're just fucking gross. And he turns around and he opens his mouth and he lets out this like really disturbing noise from his mouth that's like not human. And then Mac has the flamethrower and just sets him on fire. Like, fuck this.
Yeah, I really thought that that was a bit of mercy on Mac's point of view because he knew once he saw the guy kneeling in the snow with the alien hands, he knew the game was over. And I really, really appreciated that Mac decided to make a winter barbecue out there to spare whatever humanity was left in that guy. I really appreciated that he understood that he was dead and there was no going back from this.
Yeah. So now they need to find the doctor. And Mac's still out in the snow. And he turns around and Max sees someone running from the helicopter with an axe. And he's like, "Is that the doctor? Because we can't really see who it is." And he goes and investigates. And he's in the helicopter and he sees everything is busted up inside. Like this guy's just taken an axe to the inside of the helicopter. It's just fucked. And so now there's no way out. That was their only transportation. I find it interesting that they don't have cars or jeeps. That they only have one pissy helicopter
No, but
on an Antarctica base.
no, but don't they have the snow plows?
Where? When was that?
No,
When did they
no, but
use them?
No, but I thought that after Mac found out that the helicopters were sabotaged, I thought he mentioned something about some snowplows being damaged as well.
Oh, they've got snowplows, yeah, but they're like tractors. They're like 2 kilometers an hour. Like they're slow as
Okay,
shit.
okay,
But
okay. So that wouldn't be
maybe
fast
if you
enough.
needed, well, look, if you needed to get away from the base, then you could use them. Yes, you could. It would be slow going, but better that than being taken over by an alien entity. So, where am I? Yeah, right. So there's no way out, and we hear screaming coming from inside of the base. The Mac runs in, and the doctor is just going crazy. He is taking an axe to the radio. He's taking an axe to every communication thing that there is, and he's saying nobody is leaving, nobody is leaving. Like he's just gone fucking stark raving mad, and he what did I say?
He's
Right. So
just
I think in yeah, he's going crazy. Instead of going mental, he could just tell them what he found. Because he looks like look, I kind of get what he's doing, but he hasn't explained himself and looks crazy, and yeah, that was that.
yeah. That was a really really cool scene to show you how this thing or the entity reacts with the doctor, but also is very reminiscent of the opening of this movie when you see the Norwegian do what he does. Because it's almost a mirror image. First, you see the Norwegian trying to kill the fucking dog, come down and try to shoot everybody, and now you see almost the same
Mm,
exact thing with the
mm,
doctor, in reference that the doctor is out of his mind.
that's true. That is true. So they get him, they subdue him, and one of them suggests a blood test to see if they are infected by taking a blood sample and comparing it to their blood that's in storage to see if they're human or not. They don't know if it's going to work, but they feel like, what else are they going to do? So they go to check the blood storage, and all of the blood has been drained. There's nothing left. So now this is when they start pointing fingers, and the paranoia sets in, and they start turning on each other because they go, "Who had the key?" Only one person, only you have the key. And he's like, yeah, but I gave it to him. And he's like, yeah, but I gave it to you. And he's like, yeah, but I left it in his office. Like, it's like, who had the fucking key? Like, who fucking did this? And then they just start getting violent with each other, and they start yelling at each other. Because now they know how it infects. They don't know who is who. And this is when it becomes really fucking scary.
Yeah, I had two thoughts in my mind when I was watching the scene. I'm like, I really like how much the tension is being ratcheted up here, but it would really help if I knew any of your names, because I'm like, who's here again?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I listen,
Yeah.
listen, listen. I'm so sorry to anybody who's listening to this and who has loved this movie since their childhood, but please,
Mm.
I would really appreciate it if John Carpenter would have made it clear who these people are, how they
Mm.
got there, why they're there. Give us a backstory to care about these people before you put them through hell and back.
You know what'd be really good? You know in Stargate how all the officers have their name on their shirt? That would have helped. Like McCready had McCready, so you know, oh cool, that's McCready. That would have helped. If they're in military uniforms and they had their name on the front.
Yeah, but also, why weren't they in company uniforms, right? Or
Depends what they're there for.
right,
Again,
right,
we didn't
right.
actually know what they were there for.
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
they
that's
there?
right. That's right, because the only thing that we knew is that the Norwegians are there digging up samples from the snow. But what are they? But why are they there? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if maybe I missed it, but I don't know why I mean, I know it's a research station, but what are they researching? Why are they there? Why are there so many people there? Are they yeah. So that was something else that maybe should have been addressed. So they have 3 suspects that they think it could be them, and they tie them up. And then they ask, because they can't do the blood sample that way, they ask the science guy, you need to find another way to do the test. Just fucking come up with something. So the science guy is trying to come up with something, and the science guy goes missing. And they're like, where the fuck is he? And then they find his charred remains out in the snow. We don't know if he set himself on fire. I mean, nobody else did it. He must have just done it. I don't know. I don't know how that happened at all.
Yeah, at that point, I felt I missed something, and I actually rewound the movie, and guess what? I didn't miss anything. That just that 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 was just John Carpenter again, ratcheting up the tension. But I thought that it would have really helped if we would have seen that happen, or seen the lead up to that, I guess.
Yeah. So
I think I'm asking too much of this movie. I think I'm missing the point.
No, well, that's what we're reviewing it from a screenwriter's perspective. If we were reviewing it from a fan's perspective, it would be a totally different review. But we do break it down into its bare minimum. We basically make the movie naked, and we point out everything that's fucking wrong with it, and everything that's right with it as well.
We do.
So, Mac and one of the boys are going to. They went to see the doctor because after the doctor went crazy, they decided to seclude him in a hut. So they're out, and then one of the guys shows up back at the base, and he's got a piece of MacReady's torn clothing. And they know that when they find torn clothing, it means that the person is infected because the entity has to break out of that person's clothing in order to become the mimic. So he says Mac has to be one of them because his clothes are torn. So now they all start suspecting Mac. He's not there. He's still out in the snow. And Mac tries to come in and they won't let him in. So he finds his way into a storage room. As the guys, they won't let him in. They bust into the room. Mac is holding dynamite with a flare and tells them to back off. Now, this is interesting because, okay, they wouldn't let him in, but how did Mac know that they suspected him of being one of those things? Because he was ready. He was with the dynamite. He had the flare already. He knew. So, but how did he know that they suspected him?
Perhaps because Mac is as paranoid as they are, and Mac is understanding that at this point it's everyone for themselves. I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, right as convenience, I would say.
Yeah, that too. So anyway, he tells them to back off. He knocks one of the guys down, and they rush him. Sorry, what did I say? Oh, he knocks one of the guys down because they try to jump him, and they rush him to medical. But upon trying to revive him, his torso crumbles and giant teeth bite the doctor's arms. The doctor is literally doing compressions. His hands fall into this guy's belly and all his insides are all fucking fucked. And then this guy's stomach becomes teeth and wraps around the doctor's arms, which is so fucking cool and awesome. And then everybody starts freaking out. But my favorite thing in this movie is the head detaches from the body, and this is all practical effects. It detaches from the body, and then it sprouts legs, and it's a fucking like spider scurrying around, but it's a head of a person with spider legs, and it is the coolest fucking thing.
It is so cool. I mean, I cannot. Oh my god, it's so cool. I mean, I don't have anything else to say about that scene except what Dean just said. I just would like to echo those thoughts.
It's so cool. So Mac's in charge now because he's like, I'm going to blow up the base and I'm going to shoot all of you if you come anywhere fucking near me because I am not whatever this fucking thing is. He knows he's not. So he devises another test and he's tied everybody up. Everybody's tied to a chair. And he wants to take blood from everyone, heat a needle, and he says normal blood will just bubble. It won't do anything. If you put a searing hot needle on it, it will do nothing. But the organism's blood should recoil from the flame. I don't know how he came up with that because I know he's been using the flamethrower on them, but if you use a flamethrower on a person, you would get the same screaming, screeching, trying to run away result. So I don't know how he came up with that. So he does the test and it works. It does work. And one of them is infected and then starts to mutate. And it's funny because they're all tied up kind of together. And the person that's mutating is still tied to the other two that are not mutating. And they're like, fucking untie us, fucking untie us. And they're like trying to jump up and down. It's quite funny. And they're screaming and the other one's mutating. And the one that's mutating, there's another guy that runs in and he literally, like, this mutated whatever the fuck it is, picks this guy up and puts him in his mouth head first. And he's like trying to swallow him head first. It's gnarly. It's actually gnarly.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite part of the movie, when whatever the fuck it is picks up the guy and he tries to consume him head first, and you see him sort of like jumping up and down to swallow the guy whole. That is the most gnarliest thing in this entire movie, and I loved it so much.
Yeah. So the remaining guys who are not infected, because they're all past the test, including Mac, they go to the doctor, who is still locked in the hut, and he's gone. And they're like, well, where the fuck did he go? The door was locked. There's no windows. What the hell? And they remove some floorboards and find there's like a secret tunnel that leads them to a device or a machine or some sort of transport device that he's been building. Listen, the doctor has been locked in there for not even a day. And the device that he was building looks like he's been building it for 6 months, which could never have been the case because it was already like nearly built. How? Just tell me fucking how he could do all that work in like 3 hours. Just please fucking tell me. I need to know.
There's no possible way that this doctor or whatever the fuck he is could do this in 3 hours, but I'm going to tell you something that you love, but I just want you to know that I don't agree with it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Ready?
Yeah.
As I do air quotes, writer's convenience.
I was just like, how could he build? Where's he getting the stuff from?
I don't
Where's
know.
he getting the materials from in the hut? I don't know. It was weird. I mean, I know he could leave the hut because there was a tunnel leading out, but it still doesn't warrant that much work in 3. I mean, I don't know. He's an alien. Maybe he can work fast. I don't know. Anyway, they find out that the doctor blew the generator. So in a few hours, they're all going to fucking freeze to death. And Max says it wants to freeze itself because at the moment, there's no way out. So it'll freeze itself, then wait for a rescue team to come and retrieve it. And that Mac's just not going to have it. So Mac blows up the transport device that the doctor was making. And that was that scene.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. But again, I could have used, I don't want to keep saying this, but I'm going to say it now. I could
Go on, do it.
I could have used some
Backstory
on the fucking alien.
Yeah, that'd be
Come on,
good.
give us something. You can't.
Yeah,
I mean, you can, which they clearly did with this movie. You can build an entire story on a situation, but in my personal opinion, as a writer, I feel that I can say that. For me, it makes the situation much more complete for the audience if you give backstory to your players in whatever story that you're telling, because that makes it more fulfilling for me personally.
Yeah. So now they start blowing up the facility, and one of the guys, the older guy, he is, I don't know what his name is planting charges when the doctor steps out, and he's obviously an alien, and puts his fingers, this is so cool, it's so gnarly, he puts his fingers under his skin, and it looks real. It doesn't look fake like a mannequin. It looks like he's literally putting his fingers under this guy's skin, and it looks really fucking cool. And Max kind of building the charge and getting ready to blow up, and he's yelling out to the guys, "Are you ready?" And nobody's answering him, and then he's like, "Fuck, something is wrong. Something's not right." And so he takes a few steps forward and everything's really quiet. And then the floorboards start to lift up one by one, coming towards him, kind of like fucking tremors. There's something under the ground. And this hideous creature rises up from the floorboards. It's so cool. It just looks so cool. Mac throws dynamite, lights a dynamite, throws it at it, and basically blows it up sky high, runs out. And because there's dynamite charges all around, it's just like, it just blows up everything at the same time. It looks quite cool. So that was that scene. But that practical effect of whatever that creature was massive, but it was so cool.
Yeah, it was absolutely cool when the doctor guy put his fingers underneath the other guy's skin. That was awesome. But the highlight of this sequence for me is the visual effects guy, or the explosive expert, as he's sometimes called on sets. The fact that they blew up this set the way that they did was amazing, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone possibly got. I mean, I hope nobody got hurt, but that just, I mean, hands off to the stunt people and the special effects people for doing what they did in this sequence alone, because it was amazing.
Yeah, it was. Everything is blown up now, and Mac is kind of resting because what can you do? When one of the other boys shows up, and Mac is like, "Where'd you come from? Where were you? Where'd you go? Were you alone?" like he's, because they can't do the test. Everything's blown up. And he's like, "Well, where were you? I didn't know where you were." And neither of them trust each other. And neither of them can know if they're human or not. And so they both sit opposite each other. And Mac says, "Well, we can't really do anything else. Let's just rest here for a while." Basically, they're just going to die in the snow, never knowing if they're human or not. And that's the end. That's the end. We don't know if the rescue team comes. We don't know anything. It's just, that's the end. They fucking just, they all die.
Yeah, I mean, at that point in the movie, I'm like, okay, if there's any way to end this movie, it's on a ambiguous ending, and I really, really appreciate the fact that they went there from a story's perspective. This movie really let me down. If I didn't have to look at this movie the way that we just did, I think I would enjoy it more. But I think that's one of the blessings and one of the curses of the show that we do. But I like that I like that for the most part.
So, trivia, if you've got nothing else to say.
Off you go with your trivia.
All right. Other actors approached for, now every single actor turned the role down. And these are some of the actors that they approached for the role. Nick Nolte was the top choice at the time. In the 1982, he was big. Jeff Bridges, Christopher Walken, Don Johnson, Roy Scheider. Kurt Russell was hired as a last resort effort because everybody else they showed it to wanted nothing to do with it except Kurt Russell said yes. But that was a blessing because he's amazing in this movie.
Yeah, but also Kurt Russell back then was sort of John Carpenter's guy. I wonder, do you know if they did this first or Big Trouble in Little China first?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would assume, hold on, I can look it up. I would assume that this was first, because if it wasn't first, then why wouldn't John Carpenter choose him?
Right.
So, oh no, look what I've written. Oh, it was after. Big Trouble in Little China is 1986.
Okay. So
4 years later.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is John Carpenter says that what does he say? John Carpenter says of all his films, this one is his favorite. Aw. Really? Not Halloween?
You know what?
This one?
You know what? God, you know what? God bless him.
Yeah, God bless you.
God bless.
So I found this really funny. It's tradition in British Antarctic research stations that they watch The Thing as a part of their midwinter celebration every year.
I love that. I thought
that was so cool. My last bit of trivia is, now this is really putting the actors through their paces. The interior sets, it was all shot in Los Angeles, but the interior sets were refrigerated down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius to get the right effect. So they froze the actors. So that wasn't bullshit. They were wearing all that shit, and that was really mist coming out of their mouths because it was 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
You know what? Again, God bless John Carpenter, and you know what? And good on the actors for putting up with this and striving for just a last stitch of just that last stitch of authenticity. I really, really appreciate that, and I really, really like that.
You know what they would do now? They would make the actors comfortable, put them in, comfortable settings, and they go, don't worry, we'll just CG in the breath. Can I tell you, I've watched so many movies where they've CG'd in breath and it looks fake as shit. They can't get it. And I'm like, that's fake. That's not real. Put the actors through their paces. Directors, fucking make them suffer. They want to do it, fucking make them suffer.
I have two things to say to that. That would never happen on a Tom Cruise produced movie, and that would never happen on a John Wick set, because Tom Cruise will make you do it for real, and
yes,
and the John Wick people would also put you to your paces.
100%. Yes.
The last thing that those two productions would do is put you on the green screen and say, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll add it in later in post."
Yeah.
But I'm not discounting what you're saying. I'm just saying that that's what makes those two individuals and the way that they produce films that much more special and that much more unique towards everybody else in Hollywood.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree. But that's it for my trivia. I'm done.
All right, guys. So that'll do it for this edition of the Mixtape Podcast. Listen, if you guys like what we do here and you want to write us a message with a request or a comment about our show, you can send us an email at themixtapepod@AOL.com. If you would be so kind, subscribe to us on YouTube at the Mixtape Podcast. But as I say often, if you are so inclined to come back next week we'll be talking about a film that I believe has to do with killer crocodiles, entitled Rogue. So
it's Australian. It's an Australian goodness movie.
Of course it is. So with that, I will simply say, as I say every week, if someone is kind enough to ever make you a mixtape, that must truly mean that they love you.
The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.